This post is from a deactivated Tumblr blog. It's a French title. I'm going to butcher this. But her name is, or was, Sespersongles. She was a brilliant radical feminist and lesbian writer on Tumblr. She deactivated her blog. She is still on Tumblr under a different name, but she doesn't post anything like feminist or lesbian related anymore. Anyway, this post was from her previous blog, and it's brilliant. It's titled, On Gold Stars. One thing I find very disheartening in the gold star debate is that non-gold stars tend to reinforce the general idea, beloved by het and bi women, that the women who give more to men are more hated and receive less reassurance and social support than the women who give less to men, and that's just false. You'd think this would be seen a self-evident truth in the lesbian community, but apparently it's not, so let me insist. We do not live in a world where the women who give the least to men have it easier, are luckier, more privileged, or receive more support. You can bring up all your personal anecdotes about your lucky gold star friend who received a lot of familial support upon coming out, and your imaginary narrative where all gold stars knew they were lesbians since birth and never doubted or hated themselves, and weren't subjected to intense pressure to have sex with men, but that's what they are, anecdotes and made-up narratives. On the whole, the women who have never given men any sexual access are an anomaly. They're freaks, they're despised, they must be demonized and silenced at all costs, or shown to be ashamed of themselves and their life choices, so other women don't get ideas. When you silence gold stars or tell them they shouldn't be proud of being gold stars, you are helping straight men achieve this goal. Also, gold stars are not seen as pure virgins, they're seen as disgusting dykes. They don't get any support or praise. If they don't say positive things about themselves and other lesbians like them, no one else will. I see a lot of debates about the word itself, but almost nothing about the implications and attitudes revealed in those debates. I hear a lot about how the word gold star is divisive and damaging to the community, and for the upteenth time, it was used against us to put us down. We didn't choose that word to elevate ourselves. But I almost never hear about how your tacit assumption that all gold stars must have grown up in a supportive environment with little social pressure to have sex with men and a solid awareness of their lesbianism from a very young age is incredibly damaging for all lesbians. It reinforces the good old homosexuality is a self-indulgent bourgeois lifestyle narrative, and it implies that not having sex with men is next to impossible if you grow up in a homophobic, religious, unsupportive environment. Good job intensifying young lesbians' feelings of hopelessness. Another consequence of depicting gold stars as privileged lesbians who don't need any support since they already got all the luck and support they needed, or else they wouldn't be gold stars, right? Is that the topic of lesbophobia as it specifically affects gold stars is rarely discussed. You get the impression that it's just not worth discussing, not as bad or important as the lesbophobia, isolation, and self-hatred non-gold stars struggled with. I don't want to diminish how painful their experiences are, but they are usually portrayed as the standard lesbian experience, and I rarely see any discussions of how painful being a gold star lesbian can be, how much isolation and self-hatred we struggle with, how lesbophobia and internalized lesbophobia affect us in specific ways, in ways that are almost never acknowledged. So I thought I'd open this discussion. Being a gold star means living in a world where every woman around you has had sex with men and you haven't. I don't mean rape. Rape victims can be gold stars. I mean willingly have sex with men, which, for lesbians, means forcing yourself to go through with it. But not being able to do that sets you apart from all other women in a very scary way. I phrase it this way, not being able, because some of us have tried, have desperately wanted to push ourselves through it and finally be normal, but never managed to actually do it. And contrary to what non-gold stars say about us, it doesn't make us feel smug or superior to them. Usually, especially when we're still young, it makes you feel profoundly defective and profoundly lonely. Growing up learning that sex with men is an experience every single woman has in common, even lesbians. How many lesbians in the media are gold stars? and can bond over makes you feel like a freak of nature. It makes it really hard to develop any kind of positive self-image when you're desperately trying to figure out what's wrong with you. You find the lesbian community with immense relief, only to discover that here too, you are the minority, that the majority of women had sex with men and can bond over it, although in a very different way, of course. Again, it does not make you feel superior like the better lesbian. It makes you feel even more defective and lonely. If every woman shares this universal experience, what are you? If even lesbians were able to force themselves to do this for the millionth time, what's wrong with you? Before you can learn more about their experiences, before you learn to articulate yours through the framework of, internalized or not, lesbophobia, being a gold star only makes you feel impossibly wrong, isolated, abnormal, like an aberration. Non-gold stars always seem to assume that the default feeling gold stars have about their gold starness is smugness and pride, but it's not. The default feeling is usually shame and self-loathing. Any pride we manage to feel about never having had sex with men is a feeling we struggled to build and grow despite the rest of the world telling us we should be ashamed of ourselves. To quote another post about this, in a world where women are deemed worthless and a waste if they are not of some sexual use to a male, you should not critique lesbians for trying to find worth in themselves and boost their self-esteem. If you have a problem with the phrase gold star, reframe the issue in your head. It's not about the importance of dicks or how they change a woman. It's not about shaming women for having a sexual history with men. It's about the courage to stay true to yourself despite the constant lesbophobic pressure and being proud instead of ashamed for never having had sex with a man like proper women have. We need a word to identify ourselves, not in order to create a hierarchy in the lesbian community, and not only so that younger lesbians can see that we exist, that sex with men isn't inevitable, but so that we can see that others like us exist, that maybe there's nothing wrong with us, maybe we are real and valuable women too, maybe sex with men isn't the universal experience they want us to believe it is. It's a huge relief to discover this, to find other women who never had sex with men and be able to bond over this for the first time in our life and create some solidarity and positivity for ourselves. And it's really painful to discover that any such positivity will be interpreted by the rest of our community as attacks against them. It's distressing to be told that positive statements about ourselves will automatically be translated into negative statements about them. Some quotes from others. There's no way to say you're brave without implying we are cowards. As long as you realize a lot of this bravery relies on luck and the availability of a support network. This gold star thing is such bullshit. To all lesbians, you don't get a fucking medal for being women exclusive. It's just that not all of them realize as early as you special snowflakes. If you talk about being proud of being a gold star, I don't like you and my friends also don't like you, just saying. This whole clinging to gold star is so pathetic. It's absolutely disgusting. I didn't include any URLs or names because my goal isn't to reignite old fights with these people, just to show the kind of hostility gold stars face every time the topic is brought up. There is a palpable climate of contempt towards gold stars in the lesbian community, and it needs to stop. Gold stars are already held up as the ultimate bad lesbians by straight people, bi people, trans people, and assorted queers. The last thing we need is for other lesbians to agree with them and use the same harmful rhetoric, such as lesbians who never had sex with men are virgins, are disgusting, privileged, elitist gatekeepers. What's the difference between a homophobic straight woman who says lesbians in lesbian relationships are obviously privileged and have an easy life or else they would have to be with a man, and a lesbian who says gold stars have obviously had a lot of luck and solid support network or else they would have slept with a man? I don't really have an eloquent conclusion. I'm just tired of the way gold stars are treated. I'm tired of this being a taboo topic, even in the lesbian community, and of gold stars having to preface any discussion of their experience with the anxious, apologetic disclaimers like, I'm not a big fan of the word gold star. I think it's stupid. I just use it for convenience sake. And of course, I know I'm lucky in some ways. And I'm tired of our specific struggles being dismissed and ignored because others have convinced themselves that the very fact that we didn't have sex with men proves we didn't struggle as much as them. Consider how sex with men is portrayed in our society, how omnipresent it is, even in lesbian stories and narratives, how indispensable it is in order to become a woman, a real woman. Then please consider your belief that women who never had sex with men are somehow privileged, supported, that our pride stems from a natural feeling of superiority rather than an uphill battle against internalized lesbophobia, that we had it easy.